It's Thursday, April 16th, and time for your Barbados Today morning news update. Over 5,000 hotel workers have lost their jobs as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The revelation from Chief Executive Officer of the Barbados Hotel and Tourism Association, Rudy Grant, who said this was as a result of 87% of hotels on the island shutting their doors. Grant said the pandemic has had a crippling effect on the island sector, and thousands more were also out of work as a result of the closure of restaurants and tourist attractions.
The BHTA has a total of 79 hotels which provide some 5,161 rooms, and of those, 87% of our hotels, reflecting 95% of our room stock, they have indicated that they are closed. We have undertaken a survey to determine what is the level of staff dislocation, and 60 of our 79 hotels have reported. That represents 78% of the members, and some 78% of the rooms provided by members, and 76% response from our members. Of those 60 hotels, they have indicated that they have employed 6,515 persons, but presently 81% of those persons are not working. Some 5,287 persons.
He suggested that even after Barbados recovers from the COVID-19 pandemic, direct tourism services would still continue to be affected.
Even when the curfew ends, my expectation is that the vast majority of the direct tourism services will continue either not to function, and those that do will probably be doing so in a very limited kind of manner. Of course, we recognize that this is a very challenging period. The reality is that we are not going to, in the rebuilding process, get back to where we were prior to the COVID-19 pandemic immediately. But we do believe that through the collaboration with our stakeholders, with our partners, that we can see a rebuilding of this very important industry. We are presently collaborating with the Ministry of Tourism with respect to facilitating training for workers at all levels of the industry.
Despite this, Grant is optimistic the island's hotel and tourism sector would rebound.
We continue to work on behalf of our members. We continue to be optimistic that though the recovery will be one that is slow and one that is not expected to immediately get back to the level where we were prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, we are confident that we can see a resurgence in business, and that we can put the measures in place to take advantage of any opportunities that may exist once the country reopens.
The Labour Minister commends frontline workers for their efforts during these difficult times. Minister Colin Jordan was speaking following a tour of several supermarkets and hardware stores with Acting Prime Minister Cynthia Bradshaw as the island's new shopping regime went into effect yesterday. He also lauded efforts by supermarket management to put systems in place that allow staff to feel comfortable in what he described as a very uncomfortable time.
We also would want to thank Barbadians and Barbadian workers for stepping up to the plate, for understanding their responsibility as frontliners as well. One of the things that really was apparent to us as we spoke to supermarket management is that there seems to be a communication, a dialogue between management and workers, where management is liaising with, encouraging workers, responding to their fears, and putting systems in place that allow for their staff to feel comfortable in a very uncomfortable time. We are in an uncomfortable time. Workers feel under threat to some degree from the virus, but what we've seen suggests that they understand their position, they understand their role in the country's well-being, and they are taking seriously their need to protect themselves, and so they are wearing their masks, they are constantly sanitizing.
Illegal non-nationals can seek medical care without the fear of being deported. The assurance from Home Affairs Minister Edmund Hinkson to persons without permission to live in Barbados but become ill as the country battles the deadly COVID-19 virus. The minister made the comment on CBC TV8.
We are appealing to those persons not to think about deportation at this time. If you are feeling unwell, seek medical attention under the relevant protocols and procedures that the government of Barbados has established. The reality is that virtually every border in the world is closed at present, whether those which are within CARICOM countries or outside of this region. So the issue of deportation at the present time is not on the table, and certainly will not be on the table within the foreseeable future until borders open again.
Minister Hinkson also told those who may have expired stay or work permits during the curfew period not to be overly concerned at this time, as the Immigration Department will deal with each case when the country reopens.
Of course, as you all know, the government of Barbados has extended the curfew now until early May, and therefore clearly the Immigration Department will put back that date by which you should apply from the 15th of May to give a further extension for those whose work permits expire during the time of the curfew, or permissions to stay in Barbados, or any other grants of permission extensions which may need to be made during this month. Don't worry about it. You will have time during May to apply.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To news from the region, some unemployed persons in the Bahamas are feeling the financial fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic. We get more in this report from ZNS News.
They may not be afflicted with COVID-19, but for many Bahamians, the virus is taking its toll as bills mount and children go hungry. This was the cry of a father of two who did not want to appear on camera, but the man, like hundreds of Bahamians, lined up outside the National Insurance Board, hoping to access unemployment benefits to feed his family. Left unemployed due to the novel coronavirus outbreak, he says the situation has grown desperate and the wait to receive funds is too lengthy.
I applied in March the 3rd, and people told me I have to wait 6 to 8 weeks just for an unemployment check. I don't even have food in my cup of tea, not even a drink of water.
As thousands of Bahamians flock to grocery stores to purchase food and supplies to sustain them through government-mandated lockdowns, the father says his family has gone days without a meal. Compounded with the fear of contracting COVID-19, there is another concern.
I to the point that my landlord ready to kick me out to this point right now. Go into social service and all, ask for rental assistance. That taking 6 to 8 weeks also.
The desperation was echoed by a number of residents also seeking some aid during a time that has become an economic nightmare for the Bahamas and other countries.
And finally, the International Monetary Fund is projecting a large-scale increase in debt all around the world because of the COVID-19 pandemic. The fund's director of the Fiscal Affairs Department, Victor Gaspar, said authorities had already spent between 9.5% of global GDP on fiscal measures measures to fight the virus.
Principles of good governance should be reinforced in a way commensurate with the scale of the intervention. In order to make all of this memorable in a sentence, there it goes. Do whatever it takes, but make sure to keep the receipts. Budget deficits and debts will sharply increase in 2020, substantially more than in 2009 at the peak of the global financial crisis. Gross government debt all over the world will jump up by more than 13 percentage points of GDP to more than 96% of GDP.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.